Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So, as you can see from the title of this video, Patrick Frazee has been found guilty on all charges. He has received the maximum possible underneath the statutes in the state of Colorado. He is been sentenced to first-degree murder, found guilty of first-degree murder, plus 156 years. Now, how long is first-degree murder without the possibility of parole in the state of Colorado? In the state of Colorado, a sentence of first-degree murder is up to the maximum natural life term of the individual. There is no actual drop, like, okay, you get out life term 40 years, you're out in 40 years on that term. No, the state of Colorado, just like 26 other states in the United States, a first-degree murder sentence with no possibility of parole is natural life. No death penalty. You stay in prison until you die. If he was to live through that life term of death, plus be reincarnated, he would have 156 more years to live on top of that in prison. So he is never going to be released. Now, I have already seen a couple videos on YouTube this evening that talked to where the person who put the videos out has a kind of a warped idea and sense of what does Patrick have as the chance for parole or to get a new trial, to be able to fight this and somehow be released in the future. So let's get into that. First, if Patrick and his legal team finds some area to appeal his sentence, and there are a couple of gray areas where he may be able to file an appeal. He will file first on underneath misconduct against the prosecution and the judge. Jury annulment, he will file underneath that. These are just normal courses of what an attorney will file underneath. His attorney may eventually down the road, before he uses up all his appeals, apply to get a new trial based on hearsay evidence, and especially between now and then, if they never find Kelsey's body. Now, one other myth that is out there that I noted, that the several different videos that I watched tonight all had in their videos here on YouTube. They never found Kelsey's body. They never found the bat. They never found the black tote. And they never found evidence in the fire pit on his property that she was in the black tote burned with the bat. That's all a myth. That is something that the prosecution brought up in the case. They believe he used a bat to beat her to death. They believe that he put her in the black tote and then went to his family's house and enjoyed a Thanksgiving dinner with her in the back of that black tote in the back of his truck. And I'm not saying he's innocent here. I'm saying that these are things that his attorney, his legal defense, is going to use for an appeal. The statements by Crystal Lee. Wow. Her testimony right away. The sweetheart deal that she received from the state of Colorado and the DA is very subject, at least. If she really was involved in this crime, the cleanup, the destruction of the cell phone, and other things that the state said that she and people believe that she was really involved in. If she really did that, why would they give her a charge over here on the low end when she's guilty of all of these? They could have called her as a witness, as a hostile witness, and if she would have lied and she would have covered up and not given them the information, they wouldn't have been able to prosecute him. He would have been found guilty. I don't think he would have. That I'm not, obviously I'm not an attorney, and I'm not a legal scholar. I'm not the judge, and nor am I on the jury. The jury of 6 women and 6 men found Patrick guilty. He's guilty as charged. He will die in prison unless his legal defense team is able to come up with a Hail Mary pass, which is a metaphor for a long shot, an extreme long shot of a chance to win an appeal. And even then, they may drop the 156 years and when say, okay, life without possibility of parole, you're just going to die there anyways. Or he could win the right to a new trial. Again, no murder weapon, no body, no evidence of disposal by him anywhere. There's no evidence. But yet he was found guilty. And that's our legal system. Now, putting that aside, and again, the 156 years that he got on top of the actual life without the possibility of parole is the maximum in the state of Colorado that he could have been found guilty of and been sentenced to. Not a day more than 156 years exactly. So during the sentencing, the judge had some pretty harsh words to say and descriptions about Patrick, and rightfully so. I'm not going to say that he was wrong in what he said, but it brought up an interesting point that I saw in the other videos that were on YouTube tonight about the sentencing and what the judge had to say. And they seem to be confused on what a sociopath is and what a psychopath is. And these two terms, psychopath and sociopath, have come up multiple times in different cases that I've reported on about killers like Christopher Watts and Michael Wayne Jones Jr., Timothy Jones Jr., and Michael Williams, and so on. It comes up a lot. People say he's a psychopath, he's a sociopath. They want to throw terms out because it makes people feel better to be able to label someone as being this. If you can put a title around it and put them in a nice, neat little ball and say that is what this person is, it makes people feel better to be able to not only understand it but label it and know what it is and put it on a shelf and say that is a psychopath, that's a sociopath. So I got out my wife's Abnormal Psychology. This is the seventh edition. I mean, she didn't write this book, but this is one of her textbooks. And I was telling someone this in the comment section today, and they didn't believe me. But I'll show you guys one day. So they say they're talking about something that Scott Reich said, and I pointed out to him. I go, yeah, he's sitting in his office with all those law books behind him. I have at least 3 times as many psychology books in my home that he has law books sitting behind Scott Reich. And I'm not joking. My wife is working on her doctorate, eventual doctorate. Right now she's working on her master's, but in psychology, in abnormal psychology. So to say that at least that I have a lot of textbooks on this subject is, well, if anybody wants to send me a PayPal donation, because I'm going to be broke the rest of my life trying to pay off this college. Okay. Underneath antisocial personality disorder, I'm not going to read you the entire paper, and this paper is by Robert Hare. He wrote the original paper in 1993, and it was released in several different journals. I'm not going to get into all those, but Robert Hare studied antisocial personality disorder, and he wrote his first paper in 1983. But he's been studying abnormal psychology since the 1960s. Since the 1960s, ladies and gentlemen, he has been studying this. He knows what he's talking about. He's one of the of the world renowned psychologists in this field. So, antisocial personality disorder, sometimes described as psychopathic and sociopathic people with antisocial personality disorders, persist discard disregard for and violate of others' rights. I won't read you the APA literature reference. Aside from substance related disorders, this is a disorder most closely linked to adult criminal behavior. Don't need the AMA code and everything else. Stipulates that a person must be at least 18 years of age to receive this diagnosis. However, most people with antisocial personality disorder display some patterns of misbehavior before the age of 15, including truancy, running away, cruelty to animals or people, and destruction of property. What is a sociopath? A sociopath is someone who lacks the ability to care about other people's feelings. Now, and that is a misnomer. People think, well, a sociopath can't feel. And that's not entirely true. They can have emotions themselves, but they can't have emotions of care or compassion for others. That is a sociopath. A sociopath can't care for you, or you. They can't care for those people. They have no empathy for these people out here. They have a little bit of empathy and care for themselves. It's more self-protection than anything else. But that is a sociopath. They cannot care about others' feelings or well-being or anything. And if Patrick Frazee, I cannot say he is a sociopath. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychotherapist. I can't say he is, nor can the judge. He can throw terms out there just like everybody here in the comment section can say, Patrick is this, Patrick is that. If he truly did kill, and I believe he most likely did, if he did kill Kelsey in the way that the prosecution laid out the case and that I've watched, does that make him a sociopath? Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. But throwing out the terms sociopath and psychopath is easy. But putting them in a box where you can, check off the boxes, okay, they check off everything. Yep, that person's a sociopath. Oh, no, he didn't check off this box, but he checks off these other ones. Oh, he's a psychopath then. You can throw out the term, the definite, and I can read you the definition. It doesn't mean that we're right. But if I had to guess, I don't think he's a sociopath or a psychopath. I think he's a sadistic killer. And that's all I think he is. He's just a killer. He's nowhere near a Christopher Watts or a Michael Wayne Jones Jr. or even a Timothy Jones. He's nowhere near any of those. On his level of sophistication and brazenness and everything else. I will say boy, does he check off all the boxes on narcissism. He checked off all the boxes just like Christopher Watts and it's being somebody with a narcissistic personality disorder. Because I went through the worksheet my wife has in the house on narcissistic personality disorder. Yeah, Patrick Frazee checked off every single box. And yeah, it was even for just a layman's terms, just watching the trial on TV, I'm like, mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Oh yeah, he got that one too. Down the list, he checks every box. So, he's guilty. He's going to die in prison. And I really hope that someday they are able to find the remains of Kelsey so her family can have closure on this. But, you know, I think at the sentencing and after watching the trial and then reading on the deliberations while the jury was out for deliberations, for me, it raised more questions than I got answers. And as far as the informant, the snitch from inside the jail, I'd raise some serious questions about that because he was looking for a reduced sentence, and he got a reduced sentence for snitching on Patrick. And the letters and the towel, all those notes, were written in block letters. They weren't written out like in cursive. Did they have those actually tested against handwriting samples? Maybe they did. Maybe I missed that part, but I didn't. I didn't catch that part where they said that they had them forensically, tested against Patrick's handwriting samples. But maybe it was just me. I go into watching these trials and these cases, and with an open mind. I don't cast judgment. If just because somebody was arrested for a crime, I say, okay, I don't know if they're guilty. I don't know if they're innocent. I go into it with an open mind, and I let the evidence lead me to where I think they are, guilty or innocent. I think he's guilty. I think he killed her. I don't think the state proved or had enough proof. They had a lot of circumstantial evidence, so I'll give them that. They definitely had that. But I want to know, really, why did they give such a sweetheart deal to Crystal Lee and to the snitch from the jail? Thanks for watching, everyone.